So I understand you restore and collect cars. Do you restore them for yourself or for other people? Like, do you sell them or?
So mostly so far we've done all customer projects. These are all customers. And then when we were first getting into cars, we did a few for ourselves privately that kind of got us into the industry. Long term, we'd like to just build our own and take them to auction, sell them. Then you kind of get to control what exactly is done to the car. Paint job, engine, brakes, all that you get to decide then. But for now, it's been mostly customer stuff.
And then do you have like a personal car that you have?
Yeah, I got a few Trans Ams. I'm big on them, and an old Challenger out there in the trailer. It's kind of our nicer cars. My parents always had older cars. That's kind of what got me into it. They got a few Mustangs and TAs as well.
What cars like have you restored?
We started with a '57 Ranchero. That was the first one Dad and I did. Then we did a '53 Chevy 210 business coupe for my sister. Quite a few like half restorations where we went through the engine, suspension, the brakes, redid the interiors, we left the old paint because I was going to drive them out here on the dirt. Probably done 4 or 5 like that. A couple summers ago we did a '66 Mustang, coupe Mustang for Dr. Mackin here. And then these would be the next ones out of here that we've done.
What was the hardest part about like restoring all the cars that you've done?
Can't get too many hours in something. If you won't be able to bill for all of it, then you're losing money on stuff. So definitely the order you need to get things done and how to do it in the most efficient use of your time.
And when you're restoring the cars, what's like the hardest part to fix or like the most expensive?
Rust repair. Absolutely. Anything that's all rusted out, you got to put new panels in and get the new panels to fit right. That takes the most time.
Do you have to manufacture most of the parts?
So it kind of just depends on what you're doing. So like this is a '69 E-Type Jaguar. It's a really popular car. It's a pretty expensive car. So you can buy every single nut and bolt for this thing. You're just paying quite a bit of money for it. That's a '40 Buick, and they don't make parts for them anywhere. You get about the glass and the rubber around the chrome. Besides that, anything on there you're gonna have to make yourself. You can get some very basic suspension parts and make things from other vehicles fit, but just kind of depends what the vehicle is and what the angle is. And like that pickup over there is all custom, so the front end's all 80s technology on a 55 frame with a 2019 motor in it, and everything's custom on it to make it all work. We're making everything.
Do you prefer to restore cars like back to what they originally looked like, or do you like to modernize them like a little bit?
We like modernizing them. We like doing the custom side. Old engines are fine, but fuel injection's great on them. Good modern braking, disc brakes, power steering. That's a much better technology now. I like to do that.
So after the cars are restored, do you take them to like car shows or?
If we get time, we like to take our personal ones to the local shows around here. We haven't had time the last few years, but it's something we do enjoy doing. A lot of these, this one I'm going to shows, and that one for sure will be in some local shows when the customer gets them back.
What are your favorite car shows to go to?
Any with drag races, Hoxie Rod Run or the Atwood Rod Run because they have drags.
How long does it usually take to restore a car?
I'd say average probably a year and a half. You're able to work on it nonstop. 8 months to 15 months, I would say.
What was your favorite car to restore so far?
Probably that '66 Mustang. It was nice and simple and easy.
What was your hardest one to restore?
That Ford so far, that '55, I would say. This one was trying as well, but he did most of the work on the Jaguar.
If you were to restore another car, what would it be and why?
I'd love to do a Trans Am next, just because I like them a lot. They look good, they're simple.
Was any of the cars like a family project, or were you kind of like the main person to work on all of them?
So my dad and I started working on cars since I was like 8 or 9, just on the farm, fixing farm trucks. And that's when we did my Ranchero together. And we've pretty much built all of them together since then. We've done them all as a family.
And then, so I'm trying to restore like a 1964-ish custom cab Ford pickup. What were the steps that I should follow?
Take it apart, take photos of everything really good, bag and tag everything and label every single bag where every bolt goes. Then start with the metal work, get it all stripped apart and start stripping it down for paint, fix any rust. Paint and body, and then while you have like the front clip off, you can do the front suspension, paint the engine bay, get the engine redone, paint it.
Thanks for taking your time to let me interview you.
Yeah.
So I know you don't like restore classic cars, but I see that you have one. So where did you get it?
I bought this from a guy in Hayes. I found it online, and that's where I bought it from.
So what made you decide to buy it?
I've always been interested in the older cars. My dad's got one, and I always wanted to have one. And so when I seen this one, that's why I went and bought it.
So are you thinking about like modding it a little bit, maybe like putting a different engine in it?
My game plan is to completely restore it.
And then, so do you think that you would buy like another one of these and fix it, and then maybe like sell that one or keep it?
I don't know if I will ever sell this one. It's my first car, so I'll probably keep it.
I understand you restore plastic cars. Do you restore them for yourself, for other people, or
Both. I started out, the 39 Ford car that I have is the one my parents dated in. I walked around in the shop all my life. Finally, I decided if I was going to get it done, I better do it. So I built it actually after one of my sisters passed away from a car wreck, and I thought I better get it done if it's on my bucket list. So I built it, and then I had the Hunting Lodge Faith Technologies down there wanted me to build one for them, and so I built that charcoal one, and then at the same time I built this blue one for myself. They're the same year, so the parts were the same. So when I bought one, I bought two.
So do you have like a personal car that like you've restored?
Oh yeah, that 39 Ford's my car, and this pickup, 50 Ford pickup, is my pickup. My wife and I drive around. Might see it at Dairy Queen in the summertime.
So what cars have you restored?
Just those three so far is all I've done. I've got other projects, but I haven't done yet.
So what's the hardest part about restoring cars?
Paying for them. That's tough. Finding parts was a lot easier than I thought it would be actually for the cars I have restored. But it's always on a budget. If you're doing it for somebody, you won't get one done at a very high quality for less than $100,000. If you do one for yourself and you don't pay yourself any labor, you can get a lot off of that. But this one I've got about $45,000 into parts and stuff into it, and the car I have about $65,000 into it.
So what was like the hardest part to find, or like the most expensive to fix?
On my car, there's a chrome piece that goes from the top of the grill to the bottom of the grill, just an inch wide. And they reproduce them, but they were $550 about 13 years ago for that one piece of chrome. And that was the most expensive part I bought. And the hardest part of doing one for me is the interior. the interior is just, I'm not probably as meticulous as I should be, and I don't like tight places. I'm kind of claustrophobic, so I don't like building the interior very much.
So do you have to like manufacture a lot of the parts?
Some of them, like the frame on this pickup, is all I built in my shop, but the other frames on the other two, I bought them manufactured. But they're not they have the original frame, but for safety reasons, they have independent front suspension, 4-wheel disc brakes, and good handling, good brakes, good tires. So they're not unsafe on the road.
So like after you're done restoring the cars, do you like build them back to what they originally looked like, or do you sometimes like to modernize them?
Well, my dad and I wanted to always build it just how it was when it was factory, and that wasn't, that's a 45 mile an hour car, 50 miles. And I've driven my car to Topeka and back. I've driven these around quite a few miles, and so yeah, all the ones I built are modernized. My dad always wanted to put them original, and that's where we kind of clashed. I didn't want to put all that money into something that I couldn't drive anytime I wanted to.
So after the cars are restored, do you take them to car shows?
I did a few of them, but that's just not my thing. I don't really care to sit there on a hot day in a lawn chair behind my vehicle and pay $20 or $30 for entry fee and get a bunch of little goodies that aren't really important to me. And I'd rather cruise. I'd rather show up with a bunch of guys that have cars and just go cruise around town, or even cruise on a road trip together.
So out of the car shows that you've been to, what would you say that?
Well, the Scott City Car Show is Lake Scott Car Show is probably the biggest one that I've been to, and right after I built my '39 Ford, I took it down there and I won a safety award. I had it inspected from the Street Rod Association, National Street Rod Association, and I got a safety award because I had everything was up to safety. Everything worked. The backup lights, all the lights, all the safety issues, everything was good. That's probably the award I was most proud of, was the safety award I got.
So how long does it usually take to restore cars?
Well, that is depending on your budget and your available time. When my son-in-law worked for me, I built my car and this pickup, and then he doesn't work for me anymore, so I haven't built any since. So you got to have available time. But anyway, these were all under a year, but that's not normal. Most of them are going to take 2 or 3 years probably.
So what was your favorite?
Oh, probably my '39 Ford car, because it was really nostalgic for something that my dad worked on, my parents dated in. So that's my favorite.
What was your hardest?
Probably that '39 Ford, because that was the first one I did. There was a lot of learning to do.
So if you were to restore another car, what would it be?
I already have a '66 Ford short bed pickup, and I've got a '70 Galaxy sport roof that are my next projects.
So were any of the cars kind of like more of a family project? Or?
Yeah, well, I mean, my dad passed in 2099, so my dad had saved this car that him and my mother dated in, so it was his car, and then it was my mother's car, and I bought it from my mother. But as far as actually helping me work on it, my wife and girls aren't terribly interested in it, and my son-in-law is, but he's not terribly mechanically inclined. So it was myself, and then I have a friend here in Gove that I hired to help me with the body work.
So I'm trying to restore like a 1964 custom cab Ford pickup.
Yeah.
What steps should I follow?
Well, the first thing you have to decide is if you're going to modernize it or if you're going to keep it all original. And then you got to figure out where your budget is. Do you want to end up with a $80,000 vehicle, or you want to end up with an $8,000 vehicle that just runs and you can enjoy? And so the first thing I do is really evaluate the vehicle that you start with, and because if it has very much rust in it, it's cheaper to go find something without rust.
Personally, I do. I don't do anything here apart from maintenance. We don't own anything in the museum, and we're not really qualified or licensed to have like shop stuff in here. I mean, the stuff that I have in here already is probably going to get me in trouble. But I try to do enough just to, being a Mac kid, just try to enough to keep some things alive. And we'll take a look at a couple of the cars that the museum owns in the South Wing. I daily drive that 45 Ford outside. That was a museum donation, so I keep that up and up.
So do you restore them for like yourself or like for other people or both?
I've done both. I like to restore for myself because I like to do things my way, right way. When you do restorations for other people, there will be some times where money will be a determining factor, or you may not necessarily agree with the way that they're going. Now, I've done collection management for people. I do some stuff on the side, still work on some vintage Datsuns and Nissans for guys here in Salina.
So do you have like a personal car that you restore?
I've had a few. I've got the 45 Ford outside right now. I like motorcycles, so I've got a 79 Suzuki 4-cylinder bike that I'm going through and building like a cafe racer kind of thing. I did a body off restoration on a Beetle that had been a family car, and I've just had stuff. I just build things, get more with it, toss it, keep it around for a while, whatever.
So what cars have you restored?
I've done a 63 Bug. I took the body off of that, got the chassis, just like the bottom half of the car, fully driving. I got into trouble a lot with that. I've done, a couple of motorcycles. Probably my best job is I had a 1970 Datsun 240Z. It's called Series 1. It's like the first 10,000 that came over. A guy wanted a rest mod job on that, so I tore it down, put it on a rotisserie, full suspension upgrade, put in a stock engine, but like fancy carb stuff, and I had to do, interior electric. I did everything on that, which is, depending on the shop, kind of irregular, but it's just how it played out, and it worked really well in the end.
So what was the hardest part of restoring?
Usually time and money. You'll run into things with people that maybe have unrealistic expectations. They want stuff done way too fast or for way less money than what what it's actually going to cost. Really, like anything that you come across can always be solved with enough time and money. It's just ultimately deciding if you're willing to do that. When you restore cars, you're very unlikely to ever get your money back unless it's just really that insane. For me, it's never really about that. It's about just getting to do stuff.
So when you were restoring the cars, what was the hardest part to fix or the most expensive component?
A lot of times metal, just because it's the most labor intensive. Anyone can, get a welder and just tack on sheet metal pieces, but to really, do the fitment and do it right, that takes a lot of time. And on my Beetle, there's one time where I put 4 pans in, ended up looking at it after it was in, my measurements were off just because I'd rushed a job and didn't know any better. So I had to spend a week cutting these brand new these new floors out to put them back in again, just to make sure that I felt better about it.
So do you manufacture all the parts?
Sometimes. I've been lucky that the stuff that I work on, I can just buy stuff. There are times that I've had to MacGyver some things. On my Beetle, when I wasn't ready to do the body restoration. I just had my pan. So in order to drive the pan, I had to find a way to get like my fuel line to stay in like a 5-gallon jerry can behind my seat. I had to wire in my own tail lights and like sit on the back seat, and then I had to build my own like bracket. Not only to keep the floors from just sagging, but a place to bolt my steering column to. So it just kind of temporary MacGyver stuff, you know.
So when you restore the cars, do you prefer to restore them back to what they first looked like right out of the factory, or do you like to modify?
Depends on the job. I'm a sucker for stock. There's enough people that, you know, modify stuff and go to the moon and back. However, there are some things like brake upgrades. I'll sometimes take some creative liberties with safety. You know, I'll leave like electrical stuff alone. I'll even leave crappy body panels. But if I don't feel like that I'm not going to hit someone when I stomp on the brakes, you know, I won't take it out. So there's some things where it's worth taking some creative liberties. But I've also done jobs before where, you know, you're restoring something and you know that there's a better option, like there's a better master cylinder or something like that, but that's not what the owner wants. And, you know, if you want a genuine, authentic feeling to a particular car, you keep old brakes, you keep bias ply tires. Like, yes, you recognize that there's safer and better options, but sometimes it's not what's
Like it
meant to
doesn't
be.
feel the same.
Yeah, you know, there's some people that, you know, they want a muscle car. It's like, I want this thing to feel like I just bought it in 1964. I don't care if it's unsafe. You know, it really just depends on the job. I've done anything from, you know, just restoring it for people to drive, you know, getting them back on the road, regardless of condition. I've helped with getting things to like the Pebble Beach Concours and to the Monterey Racing reunion. You know, in places where presentation is key, usually that's where I kind of back out. I prefer to make things run well. I'm not good at making them look good.
So what would be like your favorite car show that you've gone to?
My all-time favorite, just off of what happened, well, there's two. Before I tore my Beetle apart for restoration, I wanted a award, which I wasn't expecting because the car was nice, but it was not as nice as some other stuff there. And then 2016, the last day of Hot Rod Power Tour and Roadkill Nights at the Kansas City Speedway, I had this old truck. I bought tickets like months prior, the night before the battery died. I spent my last $40 on getting a battery charger to get the truck charged up, returned it the next morning so I had gas money to go to Kansas City. And I got to meet Mike Freiberger and Finnegan from Roadkill. They signed stuff on my truck, so probably wasn't the right thing to do, you know, using the battery charger and returning it, but just from a sheer standpoint of memory, it was a good time.
So how long does it usually like take to restore?
That's an excellent question. Again, it depends. The Datsun, I got done from almost nothing to driving off the lot in about 8 months. That was insane. There was a lot of stuff that I wish I could have tweaked on a little bit, done some road testing. I've seen vehicles that have been restored for years. You know, someone will touch it until they feel like they can do it on the dot perfect in that moment, and then you go for it, you know.
So what was your favorite part of this?
Probably that Datsun. That Series 1, when I jumped into it, knew nothing about Datsuns. I knew enough to, you know, order parts and whatever, but to learn the little nuances and, you know, the Datsuns only recently have become like a favorite collector item. People liked them, but the aftermarket support has never been there. So, you know, you're going into it and like, you know, you find out, oh, like I need to rebuild the turn signal switch. Now there's only one guy that charges $150 to do it. You know, it can't be that hard. Like, let me figure it out. So it was strenuous, but the learning opportunity and knowing like, oh, you know, no one else has been able to figure this out, or not a lot of people have been able to figure this out. I just did too. That was a lot of fun.
So if you were to restore another car, what would it be?
I'm a sucker for feeder wheel cars. I used to have a 94 Cadillac Hearse that I daily drove. If I'm going to get another car, if it's not something for my wife, like some big 50s Finn thing, I'll probably end up finding like a vintage feeder wheel coach and kind of hot rod it out and kind of like disrespectful rat rods, you know.
So, were any of the cars that you restored, were they like family projects, or were you like the only person who like worked on it?
The Beetle was a family project. We had that since I was like 12, and we bought it when my dad was stationed in Europe, and then it like kind of followed us around. I used it as a daily in high school, and then my first year of college, I wrecked it. My brakes locked up. I smacked into someone else. So that's what prompted me to take it apart and find out that it was in really bad shape. So,
So I'm trying to restore a like 1960 Ford.
okay.
Ford pickup, custom cab. What should I follow? Like to make like the restoration process as efficient as possible.
Step one, figure out what you want to do. That'll determine like just what you need to do next. You always want to know, you want a vision before you jump into it. You don't want to just start taking things apart and changing their mind the whole way. Figure out what you want to do, figure out if it's feasible, right? You know, based on money and stuff. When you're disassembling, document everything. Really sit down and make sure that, do I need to take this apart for what I'm trying to do? Can I leave it for a little bit? I know, like, especially with trucks, unless you're trying to do some crazy build, sometimes all you really need to do is, you know, basic stuff. Make sure the engine turns over, throw some new, you know, ignition parts, make sure your gas tank is clean, make sure that brakes and tires are okay.
Yeah.
And if that's enough to get it on the street, to drive it around and revisit that image again, you know, because having done body off and crazy restorations, you hit a point in time where you're 6 months in, there's so much work to do. Car show season is right now and everyone's out having fun. You're like, what am I even doing with this?
Yeah.
So to have that vision and have a good idea of what you want before you even touch anything is really the best thing to go.
Thanks for letting me take time out of your day to do that.
Yeah, of course.
Or classic cars. Do you do them for like yourself or for other people?
I have done both, personally and for clients of mine. I have done 1951 Chevrolet. That's my personal collection. We do the entire engine rebuild, the framework. I do pay someone to do the body because I am not a painter. But yes, and I have done other vehicles. I've done an 84 dually for a customer. We did a whole new suspension on that, put a cam inside of it, and stuff like that. But yes, I do restore them.
Do you have like a personal car that you did?
I have a 79 Camaro Z28. That was my first car. And yes, I repainted it. I put a new engine in it, new tires, but redid the interior. But other than that, it has.
What cars have you used?
Oh, well, I don't know if we have enough time for all of them, but I've done the 51. I did that 51 Chevy 3100. I did that 1984 Chevrolet Dually. I have done the 79 Z28 Camaro. I'm currently working on a 1992 Chevrolet RS alongside my daughter's 1987 Chevrolet IROC Z Camaro. I don't know if you can tell, but I kind of like Chevys. Yeah. I have quite a few of them.
So, what's the hardest part about restoring cars?
For me, it's rust repair. It's art of its own when you come into body work, and when you do any kind of rust repair, it's very tedious. You have to be in there. You have to cut the metal out a certain way. If you have any kind of dents when you're working on body as well, you have to weld it, heat shrink it, and all kinds of stuff. And I do not have the patience for that. I really don't. But that would be my hardest aspect.
So when you were restoring the cars, what was like the hardest part to find or the most expensive part to fix?
The most expensive part if done correctly, would probably be the paint and body. Just for the simple fact of in taking off the body from the frame, putting it on a rotisserie, sandblasting it down, stuff like that. It's again tedious work. You've got to be meticulous when you go into that kind of stuff, and the paint is very, very expensive. But yes, that would be in that category as well.
So do you have to manufacture a lot of the parts?
It depends. So if we are restoring if the customer wants us to restore it to a factory spec vehicle, we try to find an OEM quality fit. But yes, there are some parts, brackets, anything like that, you may have to fabricate, paint and stuff look pretty, but yes, that I have had to fabricate some parts.
So after the cars are restored, do you take them to car shows?
Yes, yep, that is probably the best part is, once you're finished, you get to, after this hard labor of love, you get to take them out and, hopefully get some cool comments and inspire some children and set that spark off for them, but yes.
And then what would be your favorite car show that you've gone to?
Oh, I'm from Texas, and if I had to say, I would love the Lone Star Throwdown that is actually going on this weekend. It's an event with over thousands of cars and trucks. But if I had to pick the one in Kansas, the Custom Kemps of America in Salina, Kansas. Last year they had over 2,000 vehicles, and you see some of the coolest either resto mod, like perfectly pristine vehicles, or completely custom, and that one would be my favorite in Kansas.
How long does it usually take to restore a car?
That depends on the quality of the vehicle whenever we get it. Some cars might have harder rust, some cars might have harder parts to find. I have normally fallen into about the 5-year range. It's something, that finding the correct parts, putting it all together, making sure everything works right. I give myself about 5 solid years to complete a project.
What was your favorite car to restore?
Oh, I'd have to say it's been my '51 Chevy. It's fully custom. I built it for my son on full air ride. It's been LS swapped. We kept the patina paint job on there, but my '51 Chevy truck has been my favorite.
So if you were to restore another car, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, I would probably love a shark body Corvette. If I could find one, the mid-70s Corvettes that have the big fender flares and stuff like that, if I could find one, that's what I'm looking for.
So were any of the cars that you restored, were they like a family project, or were you making kind of like the only one?
I am the only one in my family that has been a real gearhead that I can find. Self-taught, Chilton Manuals, read them, and those are my Bible. But yes, I'm the only one in my family that does this kind of stuff.
So I'm trying to restore like a 1964-ish Ford custom cab Ford pickup. What are the steps that I should follow?
Okay, first step, create a plan. Find out what parts you need. Do as much research as you can because it's going to be in your hands. If you want to restore it to a factory, or if you want to go crazy and do a full custom build, it's going to be your choice. Figure out what you want, and then start with step 1, collecting the parts of that, executing that plan. I've always been really big about having a parts room, and my wife, it drives her absolutely wild. But I collect the parts, and then once I get a certain section done, then I move on. I might just do like the drivetrain, and then I'll go to the body and then the interior. But if you break it up in sections like that, it really makes the restoration a lot more fun. So
So just curious, has anybody brought in or have you restored like a Hudson Hornet?
I have not restored. So the garage in Salina, Kansas has one. And they might not anymore, but yes, I have seen them. I don't know who restored it, but if you did get the opportunity to go look at the Hudson Hornet, absolutely, you need to go see that thing. So,
Thanks for letting me take the time out of your day.
not a problem. Thank you.
So, what cars have you restored?
So I haven't fully restored any cars, but I've done a lot of restoration work on my 66 Chevy Corvair. I have a 65 Buick Skylark that I'm rejuvenating. I've done a lot of work on different Buicks and mostly GM stuff.
So, what's the hardest part about restoring?
One of the hardest parts about restoring a car is paying for it. All the parts are really expensive and sometimes hard to get. It takes a long time to get them. And then you have to know how to get all the parts on the car and all the correct ways to restore something.
When you are restoring the cars, what's the hardest part to fix or the most expensive to find?
It depends on the car in particular. For some cars, engine mechanical is going to be the most expensive, and for some cars, the biggest cost is going to be restoring the paint and body and getting it perfect.
Do you have to manufacture level parts?
With the cars I own, I've been able to buy pretty much every part I need.
Do you prefer to restore the cars like back to its original design, or do you like modern?
I'm a big fan of authentic original restoration back to effectively how it came from the factory.
So when the cars are restored, do you like plan to take them to car shows?
Yeah, a lot of times when I'm restoring a car, I want to take it to a car show, but mostly it's about driving it, but I will take them to shows.
So how long does it usually take to restore?
It depends on the condition of the car. If a car's in really rough shape, it can take several years. I've been working on my Corvair for a little over a year. Yeah, it just depends.
So would this be like your favorite one to restore?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if I had a different car, there are other cars I like more, but this is my best car that I like restoring first right now.
If you were like to restore another car, what would it be and why?
I want a 1950 Buick Roadmaster Jetback Coupe with the 320 cubic inch straight eight, because that is one of my dream cars.
So I'm trying to restore like a 1964 custom cab Ford pickup. What steps should I follow?
I would, with a truck that's been sitting for a while, put all your efforts at first into mechanical restoration. Get it running, driving, and stopping, and drive it around and see how much you like it. And then once you've got it that far, it's a lot easier to do the paint and body work, and you can still drive the car while you do paint, body, interior, stuff like that.
Well, thanks for letting me take the time out of your day to do
No problem.
this interview.
Personally, what's that for an engine, do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. I would say something like that. They're so easy to get running and driving, even if it's, kind of ugly or still there's stuff that still needs done.
Because like
You shouldn't leave it like
the tires I know needed to be replaced.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I thought last time we looked, it didn't have an engine in it. Because I thought you said it had like an
It
elephant.
froze, and then so they just left it the way it was.
Oh, I
It's
got
not
you.
really. So it's gonna need a new engine.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not awful. I mean,
So he was wondering, like, okay, well, do I want to go back to just the original, or do we want to soup it up and
Yeah.
have something under the hood for it? You know what I mean?
just because I went to school for it, I like the old stuff. Like I like messing
Yeah.
with points, ignitions, and carburetors, just because I know that. And even like as you're driving, you can like feel when stuff's not going right.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to tweak on the side of the road.
But yeah, then other than that, I just kind of want it to look like back when it like either first came out,
Yeah.
like color wise. And then I want to see if I can find tires that look like the ones that are on it.
You can. They're just really expensive.
Yeah.
And that's why I say like there's nothing wrong with going cheap at first. You know, if you get like the cruddy, like Walmart, you know, it's $75 a tire, but it fits on the rim.
Yeah.
You just drive it because it doesn't take anything. It's even if you find a second set of wheels and throw those vintage tires on there whenever you're ready, just to keep the truck going. Just, you know, there's a lot of people that, you know, as they're getting the money, I don't want to do this until I have this done to it, and then the car sits for 5, 10 plus years. My friends give me flack for it just because they like to build like show bikes and stuff, but I'm like, man, I don't need stuff painted, I don't even need stuff finished. Like if it works, I'll play with it until I'm bored and I'm ready to do whatever else next. But I want to at least experience it a little bit before I go nuts.
I feel like white walls would fit like that truck.
Yeah, and you can get like white pinstripe tires pretty easy. I know I have a set on the Ford out there. They're just, it's 14s on the front, 15s on the back, and they only could find white pinstripe for the front. So they went like 2 pinstripes and 2 behind.
Was it triple Weber carburetors?
Yeah.
And a full Fujitsu exhaust, which basically just means that at about 4,000 or 5,000
These lights and stuff, so you can mess with all the light bars and area sirens and this and that. VR simulators, time for Usually, this show, I got about 2.5 weeks to swap from the last one to this one. Usually we only get about 4 days to completely upend everything and make it look new.
I do like that. Or like cooler. Like it looks like a showroom.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we went for. The last couple of shows, like we just found like the best condition cars, but we try to save this area for like that, you know, knock your socks off, crazy valuable. I know for the first show that we had, I had $1 million Duesenberg up on the table. It was like one of 4, and it was the only one left. And then after that, I had a Monte Carlo, but it was done by Dick Harrell, who was like a drag racing legend back in the 60s and 70s.
I feel like I've heard of it.
They heated the side alone, so I was thinking.
It's funny how things come, like, they seem bad then, but then now it's like really exotic.
People will pay stupid money for white wall tires, even though back in the day it was the worst option.
There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot to take in. Orient Packard. This is my Corvair. You want it as a backdrop for your
Oh, yeah.
or whatever. You can use that, and then I've got a spot in the corner where I do all my most of my work. And you have a project car?
Yeah. 1964 custom has
Cool. Now, in the Ford scheme of naming, is that like a dent side or a bump side or a pre all that nonsense? So this is Julian. He also goes to school here. This is Matthew. He's like a sophomore in high school. I'm not part of this video project. Oh, cool. So this is my shed. My hubcap will not stop falling off the wall. Stay. Understand. But whatever you want to do, sit down in my chair. Because it actually was an in-service station where people would actually repair their vehicles and stuff like that. And now we call it's our feature room. So while we go through and swap out cars every 6 months, we change them out. These are all privately collected, and they are, all the SS is very, very nice, and it sounds great. We are very proud of our neon, if you notice on the walls. We've got all kinds of varieties, ranging from imports to American Muscle, hot rods, resto mods. We love to see them all are very top quality restorations. Some of them have actually been preserved in such a way that they're still in a factory paint job too, and that's very, very nice. This is our Tebow room. We are very influenced with Stephen Tebow. He lives in Boulder, Colorado, but he was raised here in Hill City, Kansas, and he is a very strong driving factor for this museum. These are all just a few of his cars, and most of his have either been privately restored, someone else has restored them usually, but all the restorations are nothing but top quality restorations on them. We'll go back to the fun part. I call this the vault. It's in the back, and that's where all the good stuff's at. Primarily, we have older cars. We've been trying to get some newer cars in here as well, but a few of these have been resto mods, like this 1930 Ford with the Chevrolet engine inside of it. Actually, that's another one of Stephen Tebow's, and that thing is very, very rowdy. Other than that, each one of these are individually owned, and they do come in, and we do allow them to take them out for car shows if they want to or anything like that. Have you ever heard of a kit car?
Not really, no.
Okay, well, let's go over to this Cobra, because kit cars are a creature of their own. This is Rick Moss. He lives in Hoxie, Kansas. 351 Ford Windsor inside of it. He did the engine work himself. He built it. Kit cars are cars that are not produced anymore, because this is after the Shelby Cobra, and they sell what's called a kit, and they put it on their own frame that they want and throw whatever drivetrain they want inside of there. He kept it Ford to Ford, engine, chassis, body. It is really cool because if you look at the paint job on it, it's a chameleon paint job that he had painted there in Hoxie. And I've been trying to get the paint code from him forever, and he won't give it away because it's custom for him. But yeah, that's probably one of my more favorite ones.
So, could you tell me more about like the history of like kind of how this all got started?
So the station that was up front came up for sale, and Phyllis Weller, our Secretary of Treasury, was approached by Stephen Tebow and told her that he wanted to do a car museum, and they did not know exactly where it was going to be at, how they were going to fund it, or anything like that. He hounded her, and she was like, well, we'll just keep looking. And when this did pop up for sale, they said, we found the perfect spot. With that, they added on the Stephen Tebow room, and actually this entire room was a building that was out of Hays, Kansas, I believe. She would know that. And they had a contractor come in. They said that we could have the building if we tore it down and got it off of their property. Where this contractor, he came in, tore it down, and he put it up in here for us. They laid the concrete for us, all that. And that contractor is actually Corey Semino, who is now our president of the board here at the Graham County Auto and Art Museum. And Stephen Tebow is a main provider for us. We gave him his own rooms, Tebow's Corner and all that. We constantly grow every day. I manage the event and advertising committee, so I make sure that everyone gets to see us in any way that they can, whether it be
community-wise, we're active in local communities, not only in Hill City, but Waukene, Quinter, anything that's close to us. We actually are doing our very first car show this year as well, called the Grand Am Slam, and I think it's going to be pretty awesome. We've got some pretty cool stuff in store, but yeah, we're always here for people.
So when is that party?
We are doing a Night Under the Neon cruise, August 18th, and we will have food here available for everyone. We're just going to let people come around and cruise Hill City, Kansas, and August 19th, we will actually host a car show, and we will have just tons of games that range anywhere from small children all the way up to big kids like me. We've got car limbo, we've got bounce house. You might catch me in the bounce house, you don't know. But yeah, that is August 18th and August 19th.
Inside the engine on that one? Like, what is that?
Oh yeah, that it's actually the hub for a wheel, like where you would bolt your wheel onto.
Okay.
One thing that customs guys do is they'll just kind of find parts and throw it on. So in this case, I guess Dave Stuckey back in the day was like, I can make this look cool. It looks like a rocket pad, like a turbine intake. So he just signed it in. Same like the antennas are like in the roof. There's no radio, but it looks cool to have it.